Mr. Stowers, happy Thursday. Happy Thursday to everyone on the social interwebs. We're almost at July 4th, and Ron and I debated whether or not we were going to do a podcast this week since it's a day before a federal holiday, and Ron said absolutely. So here we are. It is Thursday. This is the Little Nessie Happy Hour podcast. Thanks for joining us, whether you're joining us live or whether you're tuning in later. We appreciate it. Our numbers, our viewers have been going up over the past few weeks, and we appreciate it. If you've got any comments, any questions, we're going to be covering, I think, 8 topics today. If you've got any comments, we'd love to hear from you. Best place to reach us is on YouTube, but really any of the social media platforms that you're watching is on. Drop a comment, drop a like, follow us on YouTube, subscribe, and thanks for joining us. But before we get started, Mr. Stowers, let's just say happy 4th of July. It's not quite there yet, but cheers to you, sir.
Cheers to you, McKenna. Cheers to you. Everybody out there, cheers.
Cheers to McKenna. Well, like I said, Ron and I are going to chat for the next hour. We bring on McKenna, our producer, from time to time to give us her rants. And we before we go live, we have to tell her not to curse because boy, oh boy, those words just flow out of her mouth. Just kidding. But we're going to chat for an hour. And honestly, Ron and I chat almost every single day. And you just kind of get to see us banter back and forth and have fun together. Ron and I chat every day. And quite often most of the times we're talking about work. But we sometimes turn a 30-minute call into a 90-minute call just because we're talking about our weekend or going on a river float or whatever. But mostly what we're going to talk about over the next 60 minutes is stuff that's related to mortgage, housing, real estate, with some marketing and tech tips in there. So appreciate you joining. So with that, let's get to this week's topics. We'll give you a quick overview of what we're going to talk about, and then you can chime back in later or watch the whole thing. So McKenna, we're going to start with my weekly From the Gut message, which is about a 6 to 10 minute little segment where I just talk about whatever's fresh on my mind. 2 weeks ago, I talked about the Tartan Army and the World Cup. Last week, I don't remember what I talked about, but it's just something that's in my head and some thoughts that I've had throughout the week. And this week I'm talking about the 4th of July, but more specifically, the stuff that you see people posting on social media on the 4th of July or the day before, right around the holiday, and other holidays like that, whether it be Memorial Day or Labor Day or whatever it is. So talking about holidays and the value of content. And then after that, we're going to get into our main meaty topics. And Ron does all the research on these, and he's going to lead the way. So what are we talking about this week, Ron?
Well, by the way, your From the Gut last week was about romantic eroticism novels.
How could I have forgotten about that one? Yes.
How'd that go at the dinner table, by the way?
Well, I warned Kelly. I didn't tell her really the angle that I was taking, but I did tell her that I was going to be talking about her smut reading, and she just like Kelly usually does. She rolls her eyes and whatever. There's not much that can get to Kelly, but I did make her watch it, and she got a good chuckle out of it.
Oh, that's good. So it played well. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, this week, her first topic we're going to talk about after you're From the Gut is the 3 phases of servicing, just some new data on servicing. And I'm not so certain that the average mortgage person and certainly the average real estate person understands the definite economics behind servicing. So we'll talk about that for a few minutes. Kind of look forward to it. California wages, Iowa prices. There's a new study out of how many years of wages it takes to be able to buy a house. Historically, the rule of thumb was you buy a house about 3 times your wages. That, of course, has been blown to smithereens in most states. We'll talk about that and some options somebody might have to try to reclaim that territory if they wanted. Yep, this is really interesting. We're going to talk about the role of AI in real estate, and we're going to use France as an example and how it could be a harbinger of what's to come here in the United States. I think most people find that topic pretty interesting. At least I do.
And that's our three main topics. And I believe we have four rapid fire topics, which are a little bit all over the place this week. So there you go. We're going to chat for, like I said, the next 50 minutes, 60 minutes. So hope you enjoy. But let's get to this week's From the Gut. All right. That's the wrong image there, McKenna. Quite all right. That was last week's topic with my beautiful wife holding a smutty book. But this week, as we're heading into the 4th of July weekend, that means our social media feeds are about to become completely predictable. You know what I mean? American flags, fireworks, bald eagles, red, white, and blue everywhere, and 7,000 loan officers reminding us that it's Independence Day, as if somehow anyone or me missed it. If fireworks are exploding outside of my house, my neighbors are grilling burgers, and every store in America is running sales or selling fireworks, we probably know it's 4th of July. Now, before anyone gets upset, there's nothing wrong with holiday posts. I sometimes post them every now and again. Our little Nessie clients post them. Sometimes they're appropriate, sometimes they're expected. That's not necessarily the problem. The problem is when that's all that you post, or your content doesn't really have any true value. Years ago, I did a video about another social media pet peeve of mine. It was regarding daylight savings time posts. You've all seen them. Don't forget to turn your clocks back this week or this Sunday. And even then, I remember thinking, who exactly are these types of posts helping? In today's age, our phones update themselves, our computers, our watches. I think at this point, the only thing still maybe confused by daylight savings time is my microwave, maybe the clock in my car. But the reason those posts exist isn't because people desperately need the reminder. They exist because they're easy. And honestly, I think that's the bigger lesson, not just for not just for loan officers, not just for real estate agents, but for marketing in general. We often confuse activity with value. We confuse posting with helping. We confuse checking the box with creating something worth paying attention to. Because posting a 4th of July graphic technically counts as content, but nobody followed you because you were the first person to tell them that it was a holiday. No one woke up and thought, you know what? I wasn't sure what day it was until my loan officer posted an American flag. That's not why people follow people. People follow people who educate them, or they entertain them, or inspire them. People who, that perspective, it makes me think. I think that's where a lot of professionals get stuck. They start thinking, I need to post, instead of asking, do I have something to say? Because those are two very different questions. One is about consistency, the other is about value. Now, don't get me wrong, consistently definitely matters. You can't disappear for 6 months and expect people to remember you and what you do, that you're a loan officer, a real estate agent. But consistency without value is just noise. And social media, I think we all know it, already has enough noise. Here's a simple test. If you removed your logo or your headshot or your company name, would anyone know the difference between you and a different loan officer? If the answer is no, you might have the content, but you probably don't have a brand or a large following. The people who stand out online usually aren't the people posting the most. sometimes they're the people that say something worth remembering, whether they say it on a video or it's a graphic or whatever it might be. They say stuff that's valuable, worth remembering. They're sharing experiences, lessons, stories, opinions. They have a point of view, and that's what people connect with. Not because every post has to be brilliant or go viral, but because over time, people start understanding who that person is, what they believe, how they think, and that's where trust starts. That's one of the reasons I love doing these from the guts. Sometimes people might agree with me, sometimes they might not. That's okay. At least it's a perspective. It's my perspective. So go ahead and post your 4th of July graphic. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it. Wish people a happy holiday, celebrate with your family, enjoy the weekend. But after that, give people a reason to follow you on July 5th, because that is where the real opportunity begins. That's my From the Gut. Short one this week.
Appropriate. That's
Yeah.
appropriate, David. And so if I was a loan officer or a real estate agent or whatever, and I wanted to post something that was brand aligned to just honor the holidays, what would you say? What would you recommend?
Um, I I possibly came down too hard, but I did it intentionally to try to make my point. So you post whatever you want about 4th of July. It could be a generic stock image, it could be a video. I think probably the best thing you could post is a heartfelt video, right? Of yourself, wishing your friends, your followers, your clients, your referral partners, just a heartfelt happy 4th of July video. Maybe tell a personal story. We all know that video is king on social media. And I encourage my clients and anyone to do more video than you think you should. So that's probably the number one thing I would post. It would be just some kind of heartfelt message. It doesn't need to be emotional. It doesn't have to be overly whatever. Just yeah, I think just posting a video, and it could be something. I'm going on a river float tomorrow with 10 of my family members, and I'll probably shoot a video there and wish everyone happy 4th. So yeah, that's my answer.
I'm guessing earlier in the day than later.
Well, I'll be driving, so I might have a couple drinks, but not too many. But it can take up to 4 or 5 hours. So
Yeah. All right, got it. That's a good from the gut. Appropriate. Holiday based, but not holiday angered.
yeah, a little shorter than normal. So let's get to our main topics. Our first topic is servicing. Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, this is an easy one, David, and it's really playing off of the Mortgage Bankers Association chart of the week last week, which McKenna, if you can bring up, and it showed that the direct cost to service a loan on average is about $185, which really doesn't mean anything to most of us. But the result is the actual kind of net income per loan that a servicer services per year is about $100. So that's how a servicer makes is $100 a year sending your client, if it's your client, a bill. And obviously then $100 a month isn't real money. And even if you have a small portfolio of 300 loans or so, it's not a lot of money. Now, when you get to scale and you're rocket and you have just under 10 million loans that you service, that starts to become, real money. 10 million times 100, not too bad. You could probably get by if you had to on net income. And so that's the first aspect. There, people think servicing is worth more than it is, and it's really not until you get to scale. And keep in mind that a servicer on a Ginnie Mae loan, they have to make they make the investors whole, whether the homeowner makes a payment or not. So if you're servicing an FHA or VA loan and that loan goes into distress and it's not making its payments, as a servicer, you're still remitting payments to the investors. You're fronting it. Now, what happens is when you actually through foreclosure or mitigation, whatever, when actually you bring that loan back current, you get to pay a premium for the work you did, but you might have carried that loan for 6 months or a year. And if you have a whole lot of those bad loans going on in your book, that's where servicers can get upside down really fast in a cash flow way. whereas some of these medium-sized, small IMBs all of a sudden are having to afford millions or tens of millions of dollars in payments a month. When the market turns, you can really get upside down. So that's one of the restrictions on retention. But the next thing is, the servicing is an asset. So the book has value. And let's just say, and the value varies. If you have, let's say you have 1,000 loans with an average, coupon rate of 3%, well, that is worth gold today. I mean, because that book's never going to sell off. If you have, 1,000 loans and your average coupon rate's 7.5%, that book is nearly worthless because the expectation is that it's going to refi. So duration goes to value. But let's just, for this example, Dave, let's say that the average book is worth about 20 basis points. Well, now you get $500 million in value. You got $1 million asset. You get, a couple $1 billion, depending on your book, you might have 5 million. If you get to more, it's not hard to see that these companies that can, accumulate MSRs start to have an asset, and that asset plays really well in the finance world because you leverage it, to meet your covenants, to actually you use it a whole bunch of ways. You collateralize the heck out of it. You get premium for doing it. It helps you in all sorts of ways. And so it becomes a cash flow and a leverage point for you as it sits as an asset on your book. So just know that that's the second thing, the asset worth roughly 20 basis points, and then you leverage the heck out of it. You just leverage the heck out of it, and it really helps liquidity. Then the third thing is what we all talk about the most, David. I'm sure this is what you're going to want to talk about the most too. And that is, I like to call it the moat, meaning who is actually trying to maintain and feed the relationship with the consumer, the homeowner. The person that gets to send the bill to the homeowner every month gets to actually build the relationship. And there's a lot of argument of who owns the client. Nobody owns the client. And David, we talked about a Strathmore article recently to this regard. But you know what? We all get the chance to earn the relationship with the client. And if you ask me, the servicer has the front position in earning and maintaining that relationship. The servicer definitely has an advantage. Not only do they get to have a monthly correspondent, but they get to build all sorts of value for the client that the client starts to, touch. For example, if you're inside of Rocket's world, it's delightful to be a client serviced by Rocket. They have a beautiful dashboard that you go in to make your payment. It tells you how much your house is worth. It tells you where your credit is. It tells you what opportunities you have. It has a ton of stuff. You have calculators, what ifs. You can do financial planning. You can link to their financial planning app. It's just delightful. They're delighting their customers. So, of course, when their customers go, I think I need to refinance, they're not calling me, the original loan officer. Instead, Rocket right now is capturing 80% of the refi opportunities out of their book. So if you sell my loans to Rocket, and by the way, Freedom's around half, 50%, you're essentially selling my future away. The company is going, hey, sorry, just try to do your best to keep a hold of these people. But the data shows I'm gonna lose 4 out of 5 of my clients if it goes to Rocket, or 1 or 2 out of my clients if it goes to Freedom. And then what's not worse, but more challenging if you're loan officers, is Rocket then also mines 40 to 50% of the future purchase business that the customers in their book are going to transact. So they're servicing my loan. I'm gonna go buy another house. Rocket captures a purchase right now 50% of the time. So it's a really, really big deal. So the argument is, oh my gosh, well, why would, and I'll wrap this up quickly, David. This is a little more complicated of a topic, and we're pretty much just trying to summarize it. But what happens, we have all sorts of people that sell servicing. Why would you sell your servicing in type of that type of headwind, which is a huge headwind today, right? Well, there's a bunch of reasons. One, when you sell servicing, you earn about 75 basis points. And so that's real money to your company that you can then deploy for oftentimes what your employees want it deployed for. Like, they don't work, because here's what I'll say. I don't care about servicing. My customers love me. I go to dinner with them twice a week. I'm their child's godmother. Like, they're never going with Rocket. So don't worry. Just let's take the 75 basis points and share that with me instead. I don't think that's a good strategy going forward, by the way. But a company that sells servicing, most of them, you subsidize your rate, because it's getting harder and harder to have a competitive rate as a small or mid-sized IMB against these juggernauts that have all the scale, right? But if you sell servicing, you can take the 75 basis points and you can subsidize your rate. You might be able to actually you might use some of that 75 basis points to pay for the skyrocketing costs of benefits of health insurance. It might go to help do a 401 company match. It's income to the company. The companies that don't retain, it's not because they're villains. It's because they're making the best choice, not only for what their company, but for what their employees want. And so it gets super really complicated. And furthermore, you have another part when you retain your servicing, you don't have a servicing platform. You have to do subservicing, and until recently, most subservicing sucked. And so the relationship that my client had with what looks like the servicer for my company, which is a subservicer, is actually hurting my relationship, not helping my relationship. Now, subservicing is getting a lot better, so that's not quite the issue. But Dave, let me go back to you. Are you surprised that a servicer only earns about $100 a year to service a mortgage account?
You earlier you said $100 a year, but then after you said $100 a month. It is
A
$100 per
year.
year.
It's
It's
a
a
year.
year. That is, I never knew that number, and I am absolutely shocked. That's it.
That's it. $100 a year. That's all it's
At what
worth.
at what stage in a IMB's growth trajectory can they feasibly start to service their own loans? Because obviously, when they're starting, they need to sell it. What size company what size is the average company who starts to retain their own clients?
It's a really good question because all sorts of things go into it. First is balance sheet liquidity. If you have
Yeah.
tons of liquidity and you can shift some of your assets from cash to MSRs, that's the first. But if you're thin on liquidity, that means thin on cash, you can't quite yet leap into retaining or having playing in the MSR space. The second thing is how competitive is your platform? If your rates are super high and you're having a problem retaining your loan officers because your rates are too high, you're going to do that SRP all day long in order to try to be competitive on rates, and you don't really have a choice because if you had high rates, you'd have a huge problem, right? And by the way, if you had high rates, your the servicing value isn't that high because if you're selling outside the market, nobody's going to buy that coupon. Or put differently,
Mm,
if the market's at 6% today and I'm selling loans at 6.5, nobody wants my servicing because it's going to run off. The duration is going to be rated so low, it's not going to have value. So there's all sorts of complications like that, David. And then when you retain servicing, who's going to actually do the servicing? Because you're going to have to hire a sub-servicer. Does that
mhm,
sub-servicer fully integrate into your current systems? How are you going to get data to them and how are they going to get data back? What are going to be the rules with a sub-servicer on who gets to call the client? There's all sorts of rules, and does that fit? And then does the sub-servicer do a good job? Because if they don't, they're just hurting me. So it takes maturity in the company to be able to start retaining. And then they have to make the decision, when do they bring it in-house and when do they keep sub-servicing and how are they going to use it? Now, I will tell you, once you get to a certain size servicing, the servicing as an asset becomes a double type asset because you can leverage it. People leverage their servicing book. So let's say you have cash, you're not going to leverage your cash. If you have $10 million in cash, you have $10 million in cash. But if you have a servicing book that's worth $10 million, you might actually borrow by leveraging. You can do it instead of dollar for dollar, $4 to one, or other things.
mm.
You can use it just like you leverage buying a house. So, David, there's not one easy way. This is a really tricky thing that every IMB has to figure out. The only thing we know that is becoming more dire because downstream, the big servicers are getting so good at retention and taking our clients that it's almost no longer about the math. It's more about, am I going to be viable if I just keep doing one deal with every client and then I hand it off to my enemy or my competitor to have the lifetime relationship?
Yeah. I'm actually shocked at how successful servicing is in retention with customers because I got to take myself outside of my own experience, worked for, several mortgage companies. Um, uh, my current mortgage and servicer is one of my previous companies. And sure, the things that you said with the website, the dashboard, the calculators, those are nice, but if I take myself outside of my own personal situation, I'm just surprised at how successful that is in the world of retention because for me, I'm like, sure, every company has a great dashboard where I can pay online and see what my equity is and all that kind of stuff. Why is it so successful in retention? I don't know. I don't
Well,
get it.
David, you bring up a really good point. And here's the real bane of an IMB's existence and choosing. Because let's pretend XYZ lender goes, hey, we're going to start retaining. Well, not only do you have to have a good subservicing partner, but do you have an actual sales unit that can optimize that retention opportunity, right?
Hmm.
Because if you just go, okay, I'm gonna retain, and then I'm gonna send the signal back to the loan officer, that retail loan officer 9 times out of 10 sucks at actually capturing that, that customer back. They don't, they get the signal, they don't call in a timely way, and then they can't figure out, and this is both the loan officer and the company, they can't figure out pricing and comp in order to be competitive to retain the customer. Or somebody like Freedom or somebody like Rocket, it's become a science how to do that, right? And so the small IMBs, it's not. And then you get friction, and this is almost every place I've worked, David, that grew to be a big company. The friction comes when, okay, we're going to retain, we want that asset, but now we have to protect the asset, we don't want run off, so we have to get greater retention. Sorry, retail loan officer, you suck at retention, you want too much comp, so now we're going to get a direct to consumer platform to make sure we're retaining your loans, because those loans are really the company's loans, not your loans. Now you have friction with the original loan officer, and you try to fix that friction by going, I'm sorry, you suck at that. Not really, but you really suck at that. So we're going to pay you 20 basis points every time we retain one of your clients. Just stay out of the way so we can maximize retention on that, in the book. And it starts to be, it's a really big deal. It's a big ordeal. I'll tell you this, to be great at, servicing and retention on servicing and retention of your employees, you have to have a super strong culture and really good leadership, because there's going to be
Yeah.
conflicts.
Right. We're way over on this one. Can we move to the next one where we're talking about California wages?
Yeah, and we'll pick up the speed, David. That was a more complicated kind of thing. And all right, let's go to California wages and Iowa prices. We'll get to the bulk here. There was a couple of reports last week. They were pretty much anchored to Realtor.com report card. We're going to show you it expressed through a visual capitalist chart right here, which you may or may not be able to see on the screen. And what this really speaks to is how much you need, what's the price difference between your annual wage and a home. And we really want to, I really want to, and so what it is, it varies depending on where you live. And here's the deal: about 11 of our 50 states have a median home price that matches that a local median income earner can afford. So let me give you an example. In Iowa, you need to use about 3.7 years of income to own the typical house. So Iowa's lease is 3.7. Shockingly, David, if this map wasn't in front of you, would you have guessed that Montana is the highest?
Um, no, but I know Wyoming. I've got a buddy that lives there, Jackson Hole, and I know the prices can be similar there. So I might have said Wyoming.
Yeah, so 8.7 years of income to afford the average house. That's what 8.7 years equals the median housing thing, which is far higher than California. It's higher than Hawaii. Hawaii is 8.1. California is 7.8. Montana comes in at the highest. But remember, the rule of thumb used to be about somewhere between 3 to 4 times your annual income is what you should buy in a house. And so if you use that old metrics, nobody can afford a house. Only in 11 states can afford a house. All good. Totally get it. And by the way, that is a real problem. The average home in San Diego or in California is $740,000. Takes 8 years of pay to be able to pay off that house. Not, in evidence. But here's the deal. Here, I did I think it was a LinkedIn post on this week that got a little bit of run. And the thing that doesn't fit anymore in this world, in this whole equation, is for a lot of people, you no longer have to live in the state that you no longer have to work in the state that you live, with remote work. And I'll give you an example. Belinda and I spent quite a bit of time in Europe last year, and it was really common. We were on the different Greek islands that we'd bump into somebody and they were doing tech work. Their kid was like a tech worker, working with one of these big 7 tech companies, and they're earning what to us would be, doesn't seem what kind of money, $80,000, right? When their parents are earning $1,000 a month, which is the average wage. It's $1,000 a month, right? And their kids are earning like 70, 80 because they're earning. And the Greek people would go, yeah, my son's earning California wages, but living in Greece. He's like a rich man, And we saw that. We heard that repeatedly, like U.S. wages. They're getting, or California wages or U.S. wages. And so I saw this chart, it immediately jumped out to me. It's the same thing here. If you went and took your California wages and you were able to work remotely in Iowa, you would pay off your house with your wage in 2 years. The ratio is 2 years of annual income to the median price house. And that's the thing. About 30% of us can work wherever the heck we want. We don't have to work near our house. And that's just one more lever I'd bring into the conversation for first-time home buyers and affordability. Yes, you probably can't afford in California, but I noticed that you are a XYZ and you say you work from home. Have you thought about Iowa or you know in Illinois or any of these other states? And that just gives you more optionality. That's the whole topic, David.
Does this chart does it rank each state based off that specific state's average income, or is it a national average income?
It's the state's median income by the state's median priced house.
That's crazy. McKenna, do you have any thoughts on this? But I'm happy to see South Carolina doing pretty well right there because that's where I live. But Ron, you're in some states there that are pretty pricey to live in.
That's right. That's unfortunate for me. And I'm a remote worker, so I really should move to Iowa. It's probably
You
beautiful
should
there
move here to
too.
Charlotte.
Charlotte's beautiful. Move where you guys are. That's great. McKenna, do you have any comments on this? Would you, if you could work remotely, would you go work someplace else to be able to afford a house other than otherwise being able to afford it?
Well, aside from my main goal of just marrying rich, I no, I I think that's a great idea, but also at the same time, I mean, I moved a lot as a kid, so I like to move around. I feel antsy whenever I'm in one place for too long. And so for me, I would have no issue with moving somewhere to just make life more affordable. Cause especially for me, my the main thing that like I really want to do is just kind of be able to comfortably travel around and, take some time, go to new places, see new things. So I would love to work remote and live in a place that's cheaper to be able to do that.
And by the way, you can conceivably go work overseas, right? You can go work on the coast of France or go work in Italy or go work wherever,
Easy,
Spain
Ron.
or wherever you
Easy.
want to work.
I've
Or
done it
you could go
before. I
work,
could do it again.
or you could go work from a cruise boat. I mean, you could do anything.
Oof.
Hell
Oof.
no.
But the cheapest market, what is that one? 3.8? Is that Illinois is 3.8?
Yeah.
The cheapest market, it doesn't necessarily mean the best market. I mean, it's best if your only goal is financial. Um, but there's plenty of rich people that die unhappy. So I don't know. For me, it's a mixture of affordability and do you love living where you live?
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree, David. But then again, I'm guessing you haven't been through every city in Iowa. It would be like me going, "Hey, I would never live in South Carolina. I'm from California." You got to go and
Yeah,
check it out. I mean,
yeah,
if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. But we have a topic a little later, David. That kind of comes back to our topic last year. Is you really got to want it to own a house today. We remember a
yeah.
topic a couple weeks ago, David, where we said our grandparents had it far harder to buy a house. Their average DTI to own a home in 1980 was 55 DTI.
Mm,
That's the average. At 18%
wow.
interest rates, but ownership was higher then because they wanted it. It was a value.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing here. If one of your core values is owning a home, well, maybe you have to go move out of state, buy a house, build equity, and then move to the state you want. That might be part of the
Hmm.
sacrifice. We're going to talk about other sacrifices later in the show that don't seem so complicated. But it's an interesting question. And to your point, maybe not, because if you want to live in New York City and live in a 400 square foot apartment that you split with six people, and that's your vibe, you just want to be in the middle of the city, good for you. I mean, that's what you value. But if you value homeownership first, you might have to just bend a little bit.
Yeah. We've got a good comment from your brother. Mike, I saw the one earlier about Happy Independence Day, whether I post Happy Independence Day or not with a smiley face. I'm not sure. It's been now 15 minutes since I've talked about that. Not quite sure what that meant, but Ron, your thoughts on this would be interesting to see where there's the least dual income households, median counts, both all right, huh?
Yeah, I totally agree, Mike. And I haven't seen a data point like that, but I'd love to see where a single income family can afford a home the best, you know. And then the other thing, Mike, I like to do, I like to juxtapose not only affordability but with quality of life. I remember I did a lengthy article, I think last year, and I had 6 components that actually made up for the best place to live. It was, high quality of life, low cost of living, good health care, kind of modern conveniences, good freeways, access to education, and then it was affordability. I'd made this weird kind of formula, and the places that came out as the best weren't actually what you thought. But you're right. One of the things would be where could you actually afford a home on a single family income? That would go a long way. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Answers instead of links. What are we talking about here, Ron?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the French here for a bit, and then we're going to talk about what it could possibly mean to us. So, David, the United States has the most unique kind of marketing system for housing in the world, and it's based on cooperation, meaning that the entire real estate ecosystem is about every partner cooperating with each other so that they can optimize or maximize the marketing of a home and the accessibility to that listing or that thing for sale. That doesn't exist in the rest of the world. The rest of the world, it's like mano a mano, and like in Australia, in a lot of places, they don't have buyer's agents. They only have a listing agent, and they don't have MLSs or IDXs or any of that. When you go, and this is true through Europe, when you go to get a listing, what you're going is you're convincing the seller that you're the best one capable of selling their home in the open market without any tools. And so in those places, the real estate agents, their number one expense is marketing. And they just get crushed. They might give away 75% of their commission to pay for marketing. That's just how it works, right? Now, if they have a big book of past clients and they have a big book of clients, they can market a little less. But over time, what happens, especially we're going to talk about France, is that most of these agents have to go market through portals that act as like MLSs. And those portals just absolutely rake them over the coals on fees. So that's the first thing to understand. Now, the next thing is they're not huge conglomerates like real estate conglomerates. There's not a Compass or a Keller Williams or a Real or any of that. There isn't these giant companies. They're very, very fragmented. They're very, very mom and pop or small brokerages. And so these brokerages, to try to get some sort of scale and leverage, what they do is they join co-ops. And the number one co-op is called ORPI, ORPI, ORPI. And it has about 1,250 agencies in its co-op. Well, ORPI just partnered with a agentic platform called Clio, Kleio, and it's fascinating. The whole point is this Clio is converting all of its listing data. And listing data is super messy, so understand that, but it's converting it to an AI catalog. So a common AI tool like Anthropic or ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever it is, that they can easily now capture the information. So they have to convert a whole bunch of noise into code that then an AI tool can read, both soft noise and hard noise. Like hard noise is how much is the house for sale? What's the history? That's easy. That's data. Soft noise in the description, it says on a quiet street. Well, what is a quiet street? What does that mean? That's subjective. And so this Clio has solved how to also digitize all the soft information as well as the hard information. And now what's happening is that AI is the leading portal to actually transact business, not to do the sale. But if you look for a house in France now, you go to your ChatGPT, all the listings are embedded into it. You do search by word, meaning you tell it what you're looking for, and instead of it giving you a filtered result, it gives you exactly what you're asking for. Now, and how this applies. Well, first, before I go on, David, what's your take on that?
Um, First of all, I never bought a home until I lived in the US. And I have heard that about other countries, but more specifically the UK, since I've still got a lot of family over there. But the main thing I think about is the fact that this is so much bigger than real estate. It's changing how people discover everything. And I remember about 2 years ago, I've got an old friend has a business, and helped him redo his website. And I think I've said this before, maybe on this podcast, but the number one thing he was concerned about, because his old website crashed, or the other company that was servicing it went out of business, something like that. And his number one thing was his blogs that went back 19 years, and he still had on his typical traditional SEO hat. And I was just trying to convince him, and this is I think right before AI just blew up, but he still wanted to optimize for keywords and SEO and Google. But I think the new competition today, and again, it's bigger than just real estate, but it's the biggest competition isn't ranking, but it's being the answer, and knowing and partnering with companies that can help you answer those questions through all the different AI tools.
Yeah. Yeah. I do agree that it's where it's going. But David, real estate has been a really hard nut for AI to
Mm,
crack. And there's all sorts of reasons. One, and I was surprised by this because I did quite a bit of research on this. I was surprised AI has a really difficult time scraping property information off the internet, whether it's from a portal,
mm,
whatever. It's very complicated. They have a hard time. There's a lot of pictures. There's a lot of soft data. It's scraping the sometimes the PDFs flatten the way the data is. It has a huge error rate, which isn't going to work, right? And then they don't have access to enough information, and so because I go like, why would they even need this Clio? Why not just scrape it? Like, I was talking to an AI tool, and it's like, no, that's a really difficult data lift for us. Like, we are not good at that, and so that's why you need the solution. But even going forward too, what happens? You go, well, the reason why AI hasn't worked in this, hasn't got any purchase yet in real estate, is because the real estate galaxy, the ecosystem is so tight, and the cooperation is so strong, and the tools like the MLS and IDX feeds are so good that you don't when it's that tight, you don't need another solution. But
mm,
here's what's happening. Here's what makes this so interesting. What makes it work in France is the complete fragmentation and lack of cooperation. What's happening here in the United States? We're seeing cooperation start to crumble. We see cracks in it. We see Compass going, no, we have a three-phase. We're going to drive all our listings to our place first, and we're not going to share it. And now we're going to share early looks just with, a Rocket. And now Zillow has, hey, you can come and pre-list your. I mean, there's all these cracks, these lawsuits. You're seeing cooperation start to crumble in the United States, and you see this fragmentation, and you're looking for options, right? And here's what's happening. Think about it. What are brokers saying? And this is the most fascinating thing. I'll tell you. What are brokers saying, David? They're going, hey, listing data is if data is the whole thing, data is the golden nugget. Well, you want to know something? I'm a broker. I own the data. How come hey, Zillow, why do you charge me for my data? Zillow, why do I give you data and you sell my leads to other people? Why do you leverage my data and you monetize the crap out of it? And so you go, hey, it's my data. I'm taking it back. I'm not going to share it. If you're just going to make money, I'm not. Right. That's what the broker's doing. And so what these brokers can do, they can go now and they can create relationships directly with AI if they wanted to. AI will pay them for the data versus them the other way. AI can protect the relationship. AI can promote the relationship. And so if you see this crumbling of this cooperation, it's natural for AI to come in and go, hey, I'm your best friend. I can pay you. I can protect your relationships. I can market for you. How great is this going to be? Right. And it's inevitable. It's simply inevitable. Right. And so we've already seen, we talked about it, David, a couple of times. Like the whole thing, Google through Gemini has already building the pipe. They've already built the pipeline for this. Now, all they need to do is figure out somebody to raise their hand and start dropping in the data. But they've completely built it. They've been trialing it. And so you're going to see this. But here's the thing. This is what I would say. What brokers don't understand is now understand for this to work, brokers like Compass are going to have to change the equation. They're going to have to get out of NAR. They're going to have to quit the MLS. It's like there's going to be some burn the boats for brokers to do this. They're going to have to really leap. but I think we're gonna see this in the next 5 or 10 years, maybe sooner. But here's what I would just warn brokers that are, just saying, hey, I need to monetize my data. I just want to remind brokers the data actually lives with the listing actually lives with the real estate agent. Now they force the real estate agent to use you as a broker, but just as you think MLS and IDXs are expendable, I guarantee you real estate agents think you're expendable. And when the technology comes and they don't need you, you're the next one on the chopping block, brother. That's all I can tell you. So anyway, David, I don't know if that's insights or outsights. What do you think?
A lot of doom and gloom right there, for anyone that's watching. Not really.
No, it's changed. If you're a real estate agent, you'd be dancing in the streets. You mean I'm someday gonna be able to own my own data? All these people are gonna make money off my data other than me? Are you kidding me? You'd be dancing if you. I mean, every real estate agent would sign up for that today if it was an eventuality. Now have to be a whole lot of systemic change, a lot of structural change, but things are happening fast. We'll see it in our
If
lifetime.
there's Yeah, if they're savvy enough, business savvy, sales savvy, know how to do it and all of that stuff. So it's not like everyone's gonna, all of a sudden be making money left, right, and center because of it. The people who are best at AI and data are the ones that are gonna win.
Yeah, well, you
um,
could just pop up a brokerage company that is, it's a cafeteria plan, menu plan, fee for services. Look, I'll do all the, broker stuff for you, compliance, admin, HR, payroll, all that stuff. But every single, dollar of income that I earn from you goes to you, including from the
right.
AI. That's where it's going to first break in. And it might be a big company like Compass that does that first. They'll do it in a highly veiled way, but this means lots of change is coming. But we went way over on that topic. So sorry.
Yeah.
Interesting though.
Speaking of big companies, let's talk about Bed Bath and Beyond.
Well, you mean I don't think that's a big company given that they're bankrupt.
That's true.
But David, we've
they
talked about this
they once
repeatedly.
were.
Yeah, they once were a big bankruptcy, and now they're just a forgotten bankruptcy. But for the last couple of years, they've been trying to get into mortgage and real estate because if you can't, figure out how to make money selling towels, well, then let's get into something really easy like real estate or mortgage. And so, but they have a pretty aggressive chairman. I don't know him well. I tried to do a little research, Marcus Lemonis, and his claim to fame is he I think was the founder of Camping World, which could be marginally successful. And then he's on CNBC's The Profit, and so he's made a kind of a resume taking over failing retailers and actually figuring out how to turn them around and make them profitable. And he's done it quite a few times, so there's some success there. But turning around your local 7-Eleven and turning around or trying to go compete against Rocket in a world you know nothing about are totally different things. And so what they're trying to do, he calls it, they're trying to build the everything home, the everything home. And we've heard this. This is where you put everything under a roof. So now they're including textiles being sheets and pillows and blankets. But you get sheets and pillows and blankets, or you can go to their real estate, division and do real estate, or their mortgage, or their insurance, or their title. Like this, everything home is going to be perfect because what customers want is they just want single under the roof services that simplify. And to do that, they're making what they think are big acquisitions. They just, did an all stack deal for this Phantom, so they took a public brokerage that's just absolutely been losing money. And the bankrupt company said, here's what we're going to do, Phantom that's losing money. We're going to swap stock. We'll take your losing money stock and you can have our bankrupt stock. And boy, this is a $53 million all stock deal. Woo! And this is great. It's the same thing they did with Figure, by the way, which is a tokenized kind of financing company, which has not been proven, hasn't been proven legal, hasn't been proven scalable. So they got this dying brokerage they bought with a stock swap, and they got this unproven tokens business Figure, and they're going to build this, the everything home from it. And by the way, this Marcus guy, he may be a genius. By the way, that's my vision. That's exactly that's exactly how I see this. But he may be great and a genius, but I'm telling you, think about Rocket. Rocket has unlimited money. They spend their AI budget alone is $500 million a year. I'm sure their marketing budget has to top somewhere near a billion, right? They have, the top of the funnel with Redfin. They got their own engine in the middle. They got like 12 company channels that drive customer engagement in the middle, like their financial app. And then they have retention on the back with Mr. Cooper, and all this with unlimited liquidity, and they still can't make money today, and they barely have any market share. And so, in my opinion, this guy from Camping World comes with a pea shooter and a big idea, and whew, let's go after it. Now, he may prove us wrong because he may be a super sharp operator, and I'm not. This isn't me by trying to be critical, but the thing I pay attention to when I read this, David, you may agree with me or not. There might only be a handful of mortgage operators in North America could build that guy's vision. And I guarantee you, they don't have anyone near that first handful or the next 5 tiers down. They're still driven by retail people, textile people. They're driven by people that have no clue about real estate or mortgage. And the companies that they acquired don't have that type of intellectual talent or that type of experience. And without it, you simply can't build it. You don't build a Guild or a Loan Depot or a Cross Country or a Rate, with backbenchers that came to you from, Baskin Robbins. It just doesn't work that way. But I still wish them luck, and it's something to pay attention to.
I think they have a serious branding issue on their hands. Because he might be a genius. He might be able to build a mortgage company. But when it falls back on the Bed Bath and Beyond brand, I don't think people can disassociate the failure or the two distinct different verticals, right? Uh, who in their right mind, if they're older than 21 years old, that has memory of Bed Bath and Beyond or has ever walked into one, who in their right mind, not in their right mind, I shouldn't say that, but I think just psychologically, I don't think anyone would think that, hey, where should I get a mortgage? Bed Bath and Beyond? Yeah, that's great. Who are the top companies? There's Bed Bath and Beyond, Amazon. Who are some of the other companies that have been rumored to go into the mortgage world that that fall into a completely different vertical right now? There's those two,
Yeah,
and I think there's one or two others.
no, they're the talk has always been one of the big, multi, trillion-dollar tech companies like Google or Apple or Amazon. And then the next tier, even things like Zillow, which of course Zillow is getting into it, but like a big player coming in with a ton of technology, a ton of talent, and then they apply that genius to this industry. And that hasn't happened. Right now, of course, Zillow is doing a pretty good move getting into mortgage.
Mhm.
They've had the fastest growing mortgage platform for like 3 years in a row, but you haven't really seen those big giant tech companies come in. What you see the most now is Google starting to rattle around,
Mm.
in a more significant way. But we will see it, but you haven't seen somebody like you haven't seen Baskin Robbins go, hey, now you get a house with every scoop of ice cream. Like, you haven't really seen that. Um,
Right.
and so we'll see. And I mean, technology is a great equalizer, but I don't even think those people have great tech. Now, one thing I'll tell you, going back to your branding, frame on this, I think Bed Bath and Beyond had a pretty good, brand. I think people liked it, associate a good feeling with
I
Bed
don't
Bath and Beyond.
disagree.
I don't think consumers necessarily dented because they went bankrupt through mismanagement. But I mean, it's just too big of stores with too much inventory costs at high cost labor costs with too thin of margins, and then they couldn't stay. It's a fashion driven thing, so they couldn't turn their inventory quick enough when they had some misses on fashion. There's a lot more that goes into it, but it's just, I mean, I guess it's just, for me, it kind of galls me that anybody thinks they can come in and do mortgage or real estate. Good
Right.
luck. We've been in all our lives, we still haven't quite figured it out.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I wasn't bashing Bed Bath& and Beyond's brand. I'm just saying to bifurcate those two things or to bring those things together, that's a brand issue, is to bring in mortgage into the Bed Bath& and Beyond current brand, you know? So, we're
Yeah.
way behind, Ron. Let's talk about rent.
Well, look, we're going to zoom through this, David. This could be a 60-second topic. Let's just go straight to the graphic here. Here's the deal. This is all you got to get. You can see the little color ratings. Red means you have to earn more than $90,000 a year to earn the average, to pay the average rent in the state. Orange means you have to earn over $77,000 a year to pay, to afford rent in a state. So you look at all the states that are color coded. The color green is you got to earn at least $40,000 a year. Light green is $52,000 a year. Orange is 64,000, dark orange is 77, and red is 90. And here's the thing: more and more, there's a lot of states where you got to earn the average. Your median income needs to be $100,000 before the median rent. The median rent, right? And when we talk median, that doesn't mean places you want to live. So, like the median rent in California, you need to earn $100,000 to afford the median rent in California.
Is that household income, Ron?
Well, they don't. I would say yes. They didn't. I specify it, but I assume it is right.
Yeah,
and it's based on two bedrooms, by the way. And so now most of the country, you got to earn at least $67,000-$80,000. And by the way, that's the mean, which means, look, okay, half are below it, half are above it. There are that $100,000, whatever that house costs in California, or that rent. Let's say it's $4,500 a month or whatever it is. I probably won't live below the mean, meaning I'm probably not living where I can afford. For the places that's what I've been saying forever, David. Rent is so high for the places that you and I would want to live. It's as high almost as owning a home. That's what's crazy. And that's the only point of this topic is, hey, rent, it may, and we've argued whether rent to buy. We don't want to argue that now. We don't have time. But rent is no, easy street either right now. And just know if these are the averages or the means, know where you would actually live is a heck of a lot more expensive, because above the mean gets more expensive fast. And that's really the point, David. Do you want to add anything to this?
No, let's move on.
See, bang.
Boom.
Because I had a couple more rants hitting me.
What are we talking about here, Ron?
All right, this right here is, I titled, I think, my LinkedIn post on this, lies, damn lies, and statistics. All right, I'm assuming that's the one we're talking about right now, David. Let's see the first chart to make sure I'm talking about the right one. Yeah, perfect, good. All right, here's what it is. Here's what happened. So there was a report that came out recently. It got a ton of run in it. And it said, "Oh my God, it was a housing affordability for younger buyers, and it was for people under 40." And the argument was, "Gosh, it's never been worse for people under 40, and it's so bad." And in the chart, which I think we have the first chart blown up a little bit, in this apocalyptic chart, this Earth is ending chart, they said in 1975, the average price of a home was only $90,000 higher than the household income. It was only, so whatever, I think the house was like 160, or I can't remember what the income was like 160, and the house is only $90,000 more or something. Here's what it was: the income was 60,000, and the house was only 150. So the difference between the income and the house is only 90,000. Now going to 2024, the average income's 101,000. The average house is 350,000. Oh my God. It's 3 times worse. It's got 3 times worse in the last 50 years. This is so horrible. This is the end of the world. Why nobody can buy a house. This is the type of headlines your customers see, right? Now, David, I saw this, and I go, that doesn't seem right. I don't think it's 3 times harder. Where did that come from? And here's there's a little decoder ring here. When you look at affordability, it's not a subtraction equation. It is a division equation. It's not income. It's not cost of house minus income proves affordability. It's your income divided by the cost of the house, right? It's a ratio, not a subtraction. And so, I mean, under this way, the gap is always going to go. It has nothing to do with affordability. But if you throw this away, go, boy, this is one of the dumbest statistic points I've ever seen in my whole life. It doesn't make any sense. And you go, how much, if as a ratio, how much income do I need? Now, if you go to the next chart, right, which hopefully we have blown up, I think we do. Now, look at this. Okay, now this right here, this takes the median home price and it divides it by income. And you want to know something? it's gone from 163 basis points to 129. Or put differently, it's gone up 40%. So the affordability scale is 40% worse than 50 years ago. To me, that sounds different than three times. I don't know. And, like 40% difference is a problem that can be solved. Three times the problem is a problem that will only land in crash and burn. You can't solve 3x, but you can solve 40%. And so what's interesting is the data was just horrible. The data they used was horrible. And it was completely manipulated. You know why? Because if it bleeds, it leads. And this was Sherwood News' article. And I don't blame Sherwood News. They're a good organization. I actually quote them quite a bit. But they're manipulated the data, or were foolish enough to follow somebody else and manipulate the data and said it's three times harder to afford a house today. No, it's not. It's 40% harder. It's not three times harder. I think we have a slide that shows that. The next slide is the last one on this one, David. And it kind of brings the math into focus here. So here's what it used to be. So if you go back to 1975, it took about 2.5 times your income to, for the home price. Today it's 3.5 times. Okay, it's worse. It's not necessarily good, but it isn't apocalyptic. It isn't three times worse. And that's one of the things we have to do as loan officers or anybody in the real estate industry. We have to look at all these headlines and this data and go, that doesn't make any sense. And don't just accept it because, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. And this is a great example that if you just clinged on to, let's just pretend you clinged on to that first Sherwood article and you put it in your newsletter and you send it out to your clients and go, oh, if you're under 40, it's really hard. Talk to me. You got it's three times worse. Maybe we'll see what we can do. That's different than, hey, see this article? It's bullshit. That's all I can tell you. It's bullshit. Don't beat in. Don't invest in this doomsday nonsense headlines. Yes, it's harder for them, but it's 40% harder. We can solve 40%. We can't solve 3x. Anyway, David, I know I don't want to get on a further rant, but that's why we put this in here because it just made me mad. And you want to know something, David? I read the Sherwood article. I'm like, that's weird. That doesn't seem right. And so I put the article into Perplexity. I go, Perplexity, this doesn't seem right to me. It seems like the numbers are all made up. They're phony. And so Perplexity got on its own rant and explained to me, well, Ron, because it's not a subtraction problem, it's a division problem. And really it's not that bad. It's not three times, it's 40%. It was good. It's getting fired up. I'm getting fired up, and then, but anyway, David, what's your thoughts on that?
I just laugh because we're talking about data integrity, and I think of the two things I was thinking of while you were talking about that is comparing 1975 to today. How many households were a one income family versus right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just
True.
it was basing it off housing costs versus average salary or average income, not necessarily household income. But even if it was comparing household income, you think about how many single earners there were back in 1975 compared to now. And you also look at, for better or worse, the increase in the standard of living that we have now versus 1975, whether you're talking about square footage or all the amenities or whatever. And those are the two things. So I wouldn't say it was quite apples and oranges, but definitely some data integrity there.
That would be a great topic. Are the amenities worth second household income?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, McKenna, can we go to that the first chart, which is the charter chart, the one with the little the floaty one? Go back to more. Here's another thing that will leap out to you. Well, you can just tell this is a bogus chart right away, because look how income went from 1975 to 2025. It doubled from essentially $50,000 to $100,000, but it makes it look flat. The way the chart represents
Yeah.
it, the way it's truncated on the bottom, it makes it look flat. So, gosh, income stayed flat, housing's gone up. Like everything is
Oh,
deceptive about
wow.
this chart. You
Oh,
know,
wow. Yeah.
um, completely right. I mean, that's how you that like there's the first clue. Like, that's weird, right? But I'm just saying, be vigilant, man. Pay attention. But all right, I don't. We're over on this. I don't know how we're over. We'll keep going over because I keep talking too much.
Yeah, we're a good amount over in time. Do you want to skip our last rapid fire and move to tech tip, or do you want to do the last one? You have to want
Let's do
it.
both. Let's do rapid both
All right,
because they're both so
let's do
good.
it.
Okay, this is super quick because we already touched on it, David. We already kind of set it up. This has to do with people are now paying like 8, 10, 12, $20 for a scoop of ice cream. They're paying up to $30 for a frozen yogurt, and it's a rage. Apparently, there's lines at all these ice cream and yogurt places. This is even before the heat dome, right? And because people are starting to see it as a luxury, like a luxury they can afford, and so there's going 2, 3, 4 times a week at $30 a hit, right? And my only point is, and the title here, you have to want it. At some point, you have to make a choice. Like, is housing a actual value for you that you want, like your grandparents wanted? And if so, you have to start sacrificing, right? And if you don't want to sacrifice, quit blaming affordability because you don't get it all. You don't get the $30 ice cream. You don't get to pay for the $20 limousine to bring your burrito. You don't get everything in today's world to afford a house, just like your parents and grandparents. So you got to change, like we have to change our customers' viewpoint. It will take sacrifice, but if it's worth it, do it. If it's not, quit blaming it on anything other than your choices. That's the whole point there. The whole enchilada. That's the whole ice cream cone, David.
I might bring McKenna on in a second, but your brother Mike had a couple of great comments on our last topic. Let me just bring them back up. Not, I don't think we want to revisit it, but families have gotten couple factors that play into the data. Families have also gotten smaller too, on average, from 3 to 2.5 fewer kids, or
Yep.
3 to 2.5.
Our houses
So
have gotten bigger.
right, even though the houses have gotten bigger
Yeah.
significantly. And then
Yeah.
also childcare costs are more a factor with dual income households. Those were great points. I wish I would have seen those comments, Mike, sooner so I could bring it up while we're still kind of moving along. But appreciate it, Mike.
Mike, I'm in the
Thanks for your
Mike, I'd
comments.
comment, but I'm in the penalty box.
All right.
All right, let's bring it
Um,
home. Let's go one more.
Hey, we've got our tech tip. We've got a bumper for this. We don't really need to play it, but McKenna, play our bumper for our tech tip of the week. That's tough to say.
All right, this
All
is a
right.
really simple kind of. This isn't really a tech tip, although there will be a tip here. David, you and I were talking about this. It's so interesting. A lot of the consulting company, McKinsey, Bain, they're switching from billing bound on invoicing based on a billable hour to just basing on a project or by results. And you go, boy, that's noble of them. And people are going, it's because AI is going to replace them, and so they have to become more competitive. It's not really
Mhm.
that at all. It's that their solution to the companies that they are advising is to insert AI in many of the functions in their companies, and they want to role model that in their own companies. And so as they have AI replace a lot of their junior little consultant advisor people, well, those AIs, it's hard to bill AI hours. It's not like human hours. So they were holding on to humans just so they had a billable hour. And so now they're like, oh, let's screw that. Let's get rid of all the humans. We're going to use AI ourselves. But for the economics to work, we're now just going to do, we're going to bill by the project, not by the hour, because it works better for them, even though the cost of consulting is coming way down. And so that was the whole point. And then really quick, Dan, I'll get your feedback on this. Let me just wrap it up. So we included here, there's a prompt for if you want to switch from being billing hourly to billing by project or by outcome or results. Here's a prompt you can put in your AI tool on how to do that conversion. It's really simple. If you want it, just ping us. We can shoot you the prompt. But that was the whole AI tip of the week this week. But what's your thoughts, David?
It makes me think of, shoot, I should know his name. He's a marketing, branding, design guru genius. He's very popular on social media. I wish I could remember his name. I should know his name. But he does a lot of keynote speeches these days, and I saw a video of him talking about where he was on stage. Someone asked him about how much he charges per hour, and it was talking to this exactly. It was like, well, I'm not going to tell you how much I make per hour. It's 20,000 for a logo, and this is before AI could create logos. Even though I've got an opinion about that, and they kind of suck for the most part. It was like, well, I'm going to charge you 20,000 for a logo. Well, how many hours is that going to take you? Don't worry about it. He was like, why would it matter if I can do this in 4 hours versus 4 weeks? Why does that matter to you? Is it worth the cost, and so on? And so even without AI, I think it's a smart move. You should charge for your outcomes, for your success, and so on. So yeah, I'm not surprised to see this at all.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. We're going to see more go towards that, uh, and it's going to permeate all types of businesses, because it's not just hourly; it's any type of piecemeal. Can you just charge by the project or by the result? But David, we
Yeah.
went over. It was good, fast. Glad we came on before the holidays.
I am too. I think we went over by about we've got a goal of hitting about an hour, but we always go to about an hour 10. But thanks for joining us, especially to Michael Stowers, Mr. Mike. Thanks for all your comments, your questions. You add a lot to this show, and we've said that we're going to have you as a guest on this show, and I mean it. Ron, get with your brother. Make it happen. Let's get Mike on this show next week or the week after, but sometime in the near future. I think he'll add a lot to it, because as soon as he comes on, we're going to fire McKenna. He'll be our third personality. But thanks for joining us. Have a great July 4th weekend. Happy Independence Day, and stay safe. Don't McKenna. What was that? I think I remember. McKenna told me something she saw on social media just the other day. It was a post that someone's made. I think it might have been a nurse. It said, "Just think about this. This will be the last week. This will be the last week for someone with all 10 fingers." So
It's true.
don't let that be you, or a puffy green jacket. But we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. We'll end with a cheers. Cheers, Mr. Stowers.
Cheers. Happy 4th, everybody.
Chat soon. See you next week. Bye.